Okay.
Shall I start? Okay. So welcome everyone to the Committee of the Whole meeting for December 4th, 2024, Town of Annapolis Royal at 6 p.m. I want to start by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kmaq territory, the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I'd also like to read the recording statement as we have several members of the public with us tonight. So today's meeting is being streamed live on the Town of Annapolis Royal YouTube channel. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of the council, you are consenting to have your image, voice, and comments recorded. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded, and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and/or the CAO have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances when deemed relevant. So I'll call the meeting to order now. We have all the council members present and no regrets. I'd like to put out a call now for any additions to the agenda.
So I have two additions, one under in-camera contract negotiations. And the second one will be under presentations 2.
All right, great. So I assume we all approve the agenda unanimously, so we can move on to approval of the Committee of the Whole minutes from November 6th, 2024. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Yes, we have one correction, and that's for the name which appears under Lynn LeBlanc. So the policy of the town is people self-identify as to how they wish to be called. And in this case, the minutes should read Mrs. Lynn LeBlanc.
Yes.
Ms. Lynn LeBlanc, thank you for that.
Okay.
And that's the only correction.
Anything else? Then we'll consider with that addition of Ms. Lynn LeBlanc, or correction, that we will consider the minutes approved and move on. So next on the agenda is the presentations. Do you want to start with yours, Sandy?
Nope.
Okay, so we will ask Julia Merritt, the CEO of Annapolis Valley Regional Library, to begin her presentation.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for making time for me this evening. It's wonderful to see you all, and congratulations to returning counselors and welcome new counselors. My name is Julia Merritt. I'm the CEO of Annapolis Valley Regional Library, and I'm gonna just have a brief overview of the library operations, governance, finances, and the finance review process that's currently being undertaken at the provincial level. So in terms of scope, AVRL serves 3 counties, West Hants, Annapolis, and Kings. Total population of about 110,000 at the moment, with 11 library branches from Annapolis Royal all the way up to Windsor. We do have a full suite of services. So we have our in-branch services. Service is available Monday through Sunday, depending on which location you are at. You are able to get to a library 7 days a week. We have also the downloadable ebook and audiobook suite, as well as we have borrow by mail service for people who can't get into a physical branch. That service has fully replaced the bookmobile service, which many people remember, and which was formally put to bed in 2020. The library also participates in a province-wide consortium. There are 9 library regions in the province, 8 of which are rural, and those 8 rural regions form the basis of the Same Page Consortium, which is now we are all sharing our computer systems and our collections together. So we have exponentially increased the breadth and depth of the collection, as well as the efficiency of the spending and use of the funds that we have for collection development. And we are loaning materials all across the province. This is being proven to be very popular. Annapolis Valley residents are the highest users of this service. And this year there was a 20% increase of use in it over last year. So there's definitely a lot of value being derived from this collaboration in Annapolis Valley, which is fantastic.
Julian, your slides are moving. So I'm not sure, I think if it's under the slideshow.
It might be the same problem as what I had with the laptop.
Stop share. I hit share.
Yeah.
And then go to online. Do I need to select a different mode?
Yeah, if you go across the slideshow, is that where it is, Ken?
The presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, presentation mode.
That's what it was.
Just so it's clear to the public, we're having trouble with the slide deck moving
There
forward,
we
so
go.
we're fixing it.
Just leave it, not the presentation.
Just leave it on the
Yeah.
presentation. Okay, all right, we can do that. That's an easy enough fix. All right. Accessibility is a big priority for the province, and it's something that libraries have long held near and dear to our hearts. So we do offer a variety of materials in different accessible formats, large print, audiobook, downloadable, and we work with the Center for Equitable Library Access and National Network for Equitable Library Service. Those are two arms of what you may remember as CNIB, Canadian National Institute for the Blind. So it's the same purpose, just different names, and so we do work with those organizations. So we provide as many opportunities for alternative formats as possible, while still, of course, working to make our physical spaces as accessible as our digital ones. And as all of you will know, we do also place a strong emphasis on programming and people coming into the branches and being able to learn and engage in lifelong learning opportunities, as well as to engage with their community and learn who their neighbors are and get to know people and feel connected in the places that they live. For 2023-24, that was a good year for us. As I mentioned, there was an increase in the usage of St. Cage. Total increase over all major library statistical categories. We saw an increase of about 5%, with the highest areas of increase in Wi-Fi and hardwired computer use in the branches. Those each saw an increase of 10% each, and then there was a 10% increase in the year before. So we're looking at a 20% increase over the last 2 years for access to broadband Wi-Fi and hardwired computer, so technological access. So very much a need for technological equity in the valley and that connectivity access. So just want to highlight that as an important change in the valley around how people are using the library. We also had an increase of over 4,000 new memberships in 22-23. So we have currently over 24,000 active members, or 1 in 5 people with an active library card. You may have a card in your wallet. If you have, and you would consider yourself a member, but if you haven't been in the last 2 years, we're not counting you in that statistic. So we are trying to keep that data as current as possible. So we would welcome you to come back in and renew your card, and so you can be counted among the officially counted as a library user and supporter. With respect to the way that libraries are structured in the province, for those of you who aren't familiar, we do have our own separate Libraries Act. It is a provincial act, and so libraries services and library legislation is nested under the Communities and Culture Ministry. There is also a ministerial department called Nova Scotia Public Library. You may see that from time to time. That is the ministerial branch of the library service. 9 library regions, and in Annapolis Valley, there are 10 library board representatives, 2 who are appointed from the province as community member representatives, and then 8 municipal representatives, 1 each from the municipalities that contribute to the annual operating funding of the library. So you'll see that Annapolis Royal has a seat on that board, and so that forms the 10, although not all councils appoint a councillor. You are able to appoint a citizen representative if that is the council's wish, and so we tend to have about half and half representation between councillors and citizens on that board. Looking at the funding formula for the province, there's a mandated minimum investment of almost $36 million. As you can see, when you look at the contribution, that's split pretty evenly between municipalities and the province, although the proportions are switched when you look at the rural versus urban areas, with the rural libraries being supported just over 70% by funding from the province. And how that plays out in Annapolis Valley is reflected in this chart here, with a total annual funding currently of $2.7 million. That funding has been the same for the last 5 years. There's been no increases to that for inflation or anything. And it is a 5-year funding formula, which is set to expire on March 31st of 2025. The province did form a funding review committee, which worked April through September to collate research from 3 different working groups. There was an external company hired to do salary sector review across Canada. So we have up-to-date information on that. As well, we have updated information on collection development and so those 3 major categories of spending. We have up-to-date Canada-wide data on what spending looks like in from small libraries to large urban libraries. So that information has been collated and assessed by a committee which was formed of ministry staff, library CEOs, library board members, and municipal sector representatives. And all 9 regions in the province were represented. All that information was digested and sorted, and a suite of options has been submitted to the ministry with a range of financial investment options corresponding to different levels of service to the public. So we will wait now for the new government to get in and for the process to be revealed in terms of how we move forward with that data and the 25-26 budget. Thinking of AVRL specifically in 2025 and going forward, as I've mentioned, we have seen some really positive things happening at the libraries. That increase in use by and not just by the same people, increasing numbers of people using the library, and service improvements like digital accessibility. And this year we were able to eliminate all the branches that had a dinner hour closure. So there were 4 branches that closed from 5 to 6:30. We've been able to eliminate that. So we now have all 11 branches open for there's no split shift closures or holding, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, we are in a challenging position financially. Historically, very low wages at the library, and in the past 2 years, we've seen an incredible amount of turnover. About 60% of our permanent staff has turned over, and we now have almost as many casual staff as permanent staff, so that we can try and fill the gaps because of when you have single staff branches or you only have 2 people working in branches. Covering even basic employment contract obligations like sick and vacation is challenging. And we're definitely seeing big challenges there and regular branch closures as a result of not being able to find enough staff. Or have staff, available at short notice. So that's been very challenging. The library staff did unionize in 2022 and did negotiate salary increases. We have been gapping some other positions in order to meet those increases and not be in too much of a deficit position. And so because of the lack of capacity this past year, we've had to cut the number of programs that we're offering and say no to partnerships. Certainly the province would like the library to be able to partner with it and offer more programs to our communities, like virtual healthcare appointments and things of that nature, but we simply don't have the capacity to engage in that type of work right now. So we are very much looking forward to working with the province and figuring out what comes next in terms of service for libraries. With that, I will say that's the whirlwind picture, and I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Julia, for the very interesting presentation about this really important resource. Anybody have a question?
I do. I was appointed the representative for.
welcome.
I'm really looking forward to it, and so that's actually my question is, do you happen to know when the next meetings will be, or who will be in touch? Because my understanding was that most of the counselors who were on it in the past were not returning in
That's
this.
correct.
Yeah, so it's
Yes.
almost an entirely new board.
Yes, so I'll have to get your contact information and I'll be organizing that. We're still waiting on a number of council appointments, so
Okay.
there's no rush. I anticipate the next board meeting will be in February.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll get in touch.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
What's the gap position?
Oh, sorry, it's a position that we're holding. We haven't, eliminated it from our organizational structure, but we haven't filled it. It's vacant and unfilled so that we can reallocate the money elsewhere for the moment.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Julia. Shall we move on to?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So I just wanted to acknowledge that we have received a plaque in recognition of the landmark swearing in of Annapolis Royal's first ever all-female town council. And it was donated to council on behalf of Bill McDonald. So just wanted to put this on record that it was received and greatly appreciated. And we will hang it here in council chambers.
Lovely.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
So now we move on to the section of the meeting that's public input. Just a reminder that 3 minutes per speaker is allowed, and council doesn't engage in discussion or deliberations at this point. Is there any public input? Madam, I'm sorry, Ms.
Lynn is fine.
Lynn LeBlanc.
That's why I was asking for clarification from before, because it's something extra from what was already done. So, thank you. So on your agenda for today, when you have the approval of the committee of the whole meetings from last meeting, that's what I would like to, I'm hoping it's gonna be 3 minutes. It's just 1 page. I was trying to send you emails today. This is the email I was going to send. I was not able to. I'm having technical difficulties at my house. So I had to go to my neighbor, print it out and bring it in. So what I am trying to say is I am finally resending the email, which I was not able to, but I have a copy of it with my complaint letter at the bottom. And I include my notes. So now it's 4 pages instead of the 3 that I did not get to read on Wednesday evening at the committee of the whole meeting last month on November 6, 2024, because I had handwritten notes added to my only copy and reworked the information provided to include the IntelliVote report information. So in your 61 pages agenda for tonight's meeting, that's a lot. On page 3 for the public input of November 6th, committee of the whole meeting, it states, number 9, input. Lynn LeBlanc had sent out an email earlier today and then had copies, and they had copies available for anyone who didn't receive this. They had a discussion earlier today with CEO Millet Campbell, asking to give a presentation at tonight's committee of the whole meeting, and it was advised that there is a public input part on the agenda that is available for them to present their concerns. They do not agree with electronic voting and would like to come back to another council meeting to give a more detailed presentation. Mayor Boyer advised rather than reading a 3-page document that would exceed their 3 minutes presentation time, they need to send any documentation to the CAO to review/research, and added that these meetings are always available for members to the public to attend. Lynn LeBlanc added that they weren't happy not being able to present at this meeting. And Mayor Boyer added that there is a procedure for complaints, and the next step would be for them to submit any documents they have for review in advance of any meetings. And that's the end quote as per the printout of the agenda. So this entire paragraph is not an accurate depiction of what happened. I re-listened to the entire exchange of November 6th. And I transcribed it again, because sometimes it's not picking up what is being said. So when I spoke at the committee of the whole, I asked the councillors to re-listen and make the corrections before approving the minutes as presented. If the author who wrote this is referring to Lucy Longmire as the second person there with me, the minutes should reflect that. The entire respectful exchange between myself, Mayor Boyer, CAO, and councillors was about the quote declination letters for the electronic only voting bylaw 2020-10 and the removal of the paper ballots in the October 2024 election. The misrepresentation and jargon speak of the above needs to be corrected. Although Lucy Longmire did not speak at the meeting, she was nodding in the affirmative and agreeing with what was being said. The exchange did last a bit over 10 minutes. So in the end, I could have read my 3 pages, now the 4.
Thank you. I'm sorry we're getting past your time again.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that I do have a copy of that. It's now 3.5 pages to leave with you.
Thank you.
I had to go to my neighbors, but it needed to be on the record that I appreciate the correction, but there is more that needs to be corrected from that whole
Thank you. I'd be
paragraph.
happy to receive your document.
Do I leave it?
With me, that
Okay,
would be perfect.
let me make sure that it's all there. This is the points that I'm
Yeah.
speaking on,
Perfect, thank you.
and this is what I was going to try to email you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
I
Appreciate your
do
input.
appreciate the time again. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who want to give input? Okay, so we will move on to unfinished business then. And first topic and only topic is the wharf repairs. So we have a request for decision authorizing the town to undertake urgent repairs which are necessary to enhance the safety and prolong the life of the wharf as per the engineer's report. We probably need to take into consideration what the long-term plan for the wharf is as we think about this as well. So,
Yeah. And so in your package, you have the request for a decision. And I also have invited the Director of Municipal Operations and Planning. Is that your title? Yes.
I believe, no, development.
Development, yes.
Who's
dressed
for the occasion?
Yes, but he only has 15 minutes, so if there's any questions regarding the quotes or anything that you would like. Mr. Knox to talk about, your time is short. Cause he has other plans.
Not my only party to see.
I had a question, if I can ask him.
mhm.
And I went and looked up anodes
Yes,
and all had to do with conductivity.
yes.
And I have no idea what's going on.
All it is in salt water has a negative charge, I believe, but anyway, salt water reacts with metal. The anodes are made of zinc, and basically with the electric field created by the salt water, the anodes deteriorate faster than the metal they're attached to. So that's why they're also called sometimes sacrificial anodes. So they protect what they're attached to because they dissolve first. And that's why they have a limited lifespan as well.
And they also only work when they're in the water.
This is something that the
Like
corrosion specialist
50%
pointed out to
of
us,
the
our
time.
wharf roughly is wet 50% of the time. So compared to a boat that's always in the water, these anodes would only offer half the protection.
Mhm. Any other?
I also have questions about anodes. So I knew what they were. But the question I had was the cost of $114,000. So because I knew what anodes were, and I know that the rule of thumb is 1 to 2% coverage of any metal that is being attached to.
Yeah.
And anodes of the size that would be effective for the wharf would be approximately 12 inches by 6 inches by, like, they come like a plate. They're not the tiny little ones
There's- yeah,
that
there's
you
several
put on
sizes,
on a boat. So those are, generally, those ones are approximately about $77 per. So at 114,000, is that the total cost for anodes? Like, that's what I was
Yeah,
understanding.
that's anodes only.
That's
So
anodes only.
correct. And I am not a wharf anode specialist, fair play. So we contacted
Yeah,
specialists.
and I'm not either. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
happened
but
to, I had a
this-
boat.
Yeah, so this comes from the company that this is all they do, they're
Okay.
corrosion specialists. And so I sent them our wharf assessment. I also gave them dimensions for the wharf, height, all these good
Okay.
things. And so this was their calculation. It's literally, this is what they do.
Okay.
So this is an expert opinion as to the amount of coverage required in our situation.
And
And the cost, materials only, not installation.
so that was my next question.
Yes.
Would we install or would they install? Because it literally is just screwing a little plank of metal.
There's several styles, bolt on, weld on.
Yeah.
But to bolt on, then you have to fix the bolt itself.
Mhm.
If we had weld on, and this could all be determined once, as we move down this path. If authorized, we're already looking at welding work being done on the wharf. So we could probably use the same contractor to weld the mounts for the
At the same
anodes,
time.
At the same time.
Yeah,
Right, and plus then the anodes would be the near the newest metal as well and offer that protection.
Okay,
I would imagine
so,
also to keep, sorry. To keep, since there's repairs need to be done anyways, you'd want the two to be done at the same
Yeah,
time.
if
from
we
the
can sort of
perspective
stack
making sure you get in the right
subcontractors.
place.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it'll increase the hours on task, so
Yeah.
there will be a cost associated, but we're not remobilizing, we're not getting
Mhm.
double for mileage.
Apologies, Lynn, you wanted to say something?
Yeah,
Did you
so,
wish me happy anniversary?
yes.
And to you, Councilor Myers.
Thank you. So this is, a remedy for 5 years, which
Correct.
means we're kicking down the can. The same cost, or we won't know the costs in 5 years? For the additional tenure and that additional, when they talk about a tenure, is that the fix, like over 10 years? And what?
Yeah, so with like the degree of coverage, so with larger anodes, more anodes would provide more coverage because there's more sacrificial zinc in this case, but the anodes aren't a solution in isolation. The wharf has other factors acting on it, its age, wave action, storm action, all these things. So even with these anodes in place, they don't guarantee 5 years of life, given the other factors, but our expert engineer has recommended that, if we want to maximize the remaining time of the wharf without putting a number to
Slow
it.
decline of the metal.
Exactly, so
Don't
then
stop
this
at the
is
beginning.
something we can do to give us more time, but he didn't put an exact number, like, oh, if you add the anodes, it's an extra year. But this will, as stated, this will slow the decay of the riprap.
So we're basically just putting a Band-Aid on and kicking the can down for huge expenses down the road.
Yeah, and I think this is sort of, if it's a subtext at all in the RFD, and it was stated earlier by the deputy mayor, council certainly needs to make a decision. I think we're getting into real money at this point. The welding last time, I believe, it was over 100,000. So even this temporary measures, trying to extend what we have, we're already pushing that 250,000 territory. So, and if council decides everything must be spent to preserve the life of the wharf, then fine, this is what we do. But This is it. This does not fix the wharf. This does not guarantee anything with the wharf, but this, according to our experts, does slow the decay of the wharf.
And it's above 128,000 already because it's 7,000 for materials, that's 7,000 labor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the 114,000, we have costs on top of that, and we have no idea how much.
Absolutely. So I mean, it's significant funding.
Was there anything budgeted in the 2024-2025 for repair or work on the wharf?
So, no, just the wharf inspection, and then we brought it to the previous council to fix the timbers along the edge, and they did not want us to spend the money on it and asked us to place rocks around it.
Okay.
And then in this inspection, they said the rock is not suitable.
Okay.
So no, and there currently is no money in the budget for wharf repairs this fiscal year, but
The last question for me, I think, kind of thinking about what Lynn was just saying about, so this doesn't necessarily, making this decision doesn't require us to kick the can down the road. It's just requires us to make a decision at this point about what we want to do initially. We have, as the deputy mayor noted, we have a bigger decision that we have to make. And we can't really wait 5 years to make that bigger decision. We have to start getting on that.
correct, but you also have the health and safety of the
Yes.
wharf. So there are some safety concerns of the wharf.
Yeah.
Staff have brought that to your attention now, so if nothing is done about the safety and someone hurts themselves, staff
You're
are not
right.
liable.
Yeah.
Council will now be liable for making the decisions not to fix the safety items only.
Yeah, they were described as urgently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
And-
fair enough, yeah.
And those were noted, a couple of them were noted in the previous year as well as this year, and
Yeah, and
still
that-
not.
And that's it though,
Been done.
other monies haven't, staff time has been allocated for this, we do spend time working on the wharf. And some of the items, like removing the ladders were recommended, we do, things
Yeah.
like that, that's in process
Okay.
as well. But for welding, for anodes, there's been no money allocated.
And that's not safety, right? So
Mhm.
putting the anodes on, repairing the riffraff, that wouldn't be considered safety. I think the only two safety items
Are they?
are the board
And the
Yeah,
ladders.
and the ladders.
So
And
the
the
boards
ladders,
are on here, or
Yes.
the wooden curbs are on here.
Correct.
So,
So that's 15,000, right?
That's, and that
that's just
was
the wood.
under the last assessment of 220 linear feet of
Mhm.
curbing, which needs to be replaced. So that will increase over time
Yeah.
as it just decays.
And in a way, you could look at it, I guess, as kicking the can down the road, but, or maybe another way to look at it is that you're putting some things in place so that we can
mhm,
make a considered decision, and then if necessary, find the money to do what that decision implies.
And on April 29th, we filed a grant for 7 million, of course, it was unsuccessful, was that with a COA? I can't even remember.
No.
But it was filed and no response, so we've been kicking the can since April of this year, trying to find sources of money for a wharf. And if they were to be found, that had been found. However, there was a very inventive recommendation from a brother for paying for maintenance of the wharf, a fundraising activity.
Mhm.
And we've got the names of everybody on the petition that signed that said there should be a wharf. Public fundraising, something like that. But it's
Grants
So
available.
for today's decision then, do we need to decide? So as Emery pointed out, it's 128,000 plus, HST and whatever cost changes there are.
plus labor.
Yeah, so we don't necessarily have to make that $128,000 decision today, but the safety decision, which is around the wooden curbs in particular, that's a $15,000 decision.
That's materials, that's not installation, so I would
Well,
say.
7,000 plus HST
Yeah.
and then the cost.
Yeah,
of
yeah, so
approximately 6
but
to
it-
7.
it's not
So
normalized, but yes.
so approximately 15,000 to actually do the safety issue, which is the wooden curbs. So we can separate those out though, right? Like we can
Absolutely.
make the decision about the safety portion and continue to move forward talking about the other, like the anode and the greater decision about what happens overall in general. But we can't really not do
Do
the
the
safety decision
Well, you-
because we're responsible if
Right, but
something
you-
were to happen.
Correct, but you also have the option to close that half of the wharf for the winter time.
The
And then
half
that-
underwater, you mean, that gets underwater.
No, the half where it would be probably where are the most of, like, if we close the wharf.
Mm.
And didn't allow anybody on the wharf, then the safety is done. Like, we've issued the safety and saved our money until a decision could be made. Right?
Sorry, it- I've heard of instances where people disregard barriers and do stuff like that, and they still sue the people who are.
Yeah, I don't.
The signs
Yeah,
are. at
But as
your
long as
own
those
risk.
signs, yeah, and
Yeah,
the signs and the.
risk.
We
closure.
already have at your own
Yeah.
risk signs on the wharf, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we also have cars parking on there, putting more pressure on the wharf right now too. So.
But the
pretty
engineers have said the cars are not a factor. It's the wood is rotten where the barrier, where the wheel well wood, that those pieces are rotten. And that's the part that's the actual risk.
Yeah, so the
The
cars.
cars
can
sitting
drive.
on top of it are not the risk.
So they can drive all the way to the end.
Yeah,
Cause
Said
that's,
no cars at the end.
but that's why we have it blocked off.
So.
But that's what I'm saying. Another option is to block off the wharf.
Yeah.
And then your safety is
sort of.
sorted if you don't want to spend the money.
Yeah,
It is winter time, right? So not sure if, and then you could, order the parts or figure out, it wouldn't be a rash decision
Mm.
today that you would have to do if you did it in January and February and then have it ready for spring, get them done and open the wharf for the spring, just as an option, just throwing it out there.
And it gives time for public consultation, because
Correct.
despite the survey, despite the public meeting, we haven't reached enough people to,
Yeah, and it is
we
not
don't
that.
currently have any funds to pay for it.
absolutely.
And have we exhausted every grant opportunity?
We've
I can
never-
tell you if there was such a thing, Sandy would have been on it. Yes,
And so we're proposing, or not proposing, but what's being discussed right now is close the wharf without any public consultation.
It's just an option that is on the table, yes. You can, get the safety concerns looked after. You might make a motion for the extra expenses because it's not in your budget. So I need a motion from council to expend the expenses to fix the safety part. Or you just close the wharf off to the public temporarily until you have a public meeting, find out, I'm not saying that we should close the wharf completely or we don't want the wharf. It's just to give you an option to think about, right?
Would it be just closed off with Rockles then, or?
Excuse me, closed off.
And close off that in council wants.
Yep, barricade,
We
rocks
have,
and
and
signage.
certainly, the big thing is posting.
Yeah.
No people beyond this point, that'd be close, that kind of thing, but,
Vehicles.
we could be close with a variety of barriers for sure.
I think public consultation is a very important step. I guess my concern is if we're not addressing safety issue right away, until we get agreement on how we're gonna do that, it doesn't feel right to allow people to continue to use the wharf as is.
I can just say that it's been like this for years.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean you're not liable either.
No, it
So
doesn't.
if something happens tomorrow after this discussion, we would all feel horrible that we haven't dealt with it, right? And we can just, and if we show progress, like we've ordered the timbers and they haven't come yet, at least we can show we're doing our due diligence.
Yeah,
And I guess we could be, for me, we gotta find the money to do it. That's the big thing. We couldn't just say, go ahead and do it tomorrow without going into debt, correct?
Well, we would have money, we'd have to take money out of operating reserves to cover it.
yeah.
And we're only talking like maybe 20,000, right? Well, 14 plus, and then there's, because that was a quote from quite a while ago.
There's,
It was a few months now.
yeah, on here it says 7,000 for the materials and approximately 6
Yeah.
to 7,000 for the installation
Yeah.
plus HST.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
we're still looking, I mean, yeah, I mean, 20
A max.
is a max. I
Yeah.
think we're still looking at around 15.
But there's welding that also has to be done, because most of the welding.
But
the
we don't
joints
have a
together.
cost that's actually associated with the welding, and I think we
Correct.
all just kind of discussed the fact that the welding is not a safety. risk.
We have the
No, the
quote, which is the
welding.
rate, but then they have to come out, they have to identify all the spots, well, they have to
Yeah.
like do the physical count.
Yeah,
It's not welding of the walls, it's the welding of the
Brackets,
brackets to
To hold
hold
them down.
the.
in
wood
many places, they're just gone.
curbs.
okay, I see what you're saying,
So-
but that's not
And
included
that's
in
not
this.
included.
No, and that was the installation cost.
And that is-
Well, that's all this, it's
Yeah.
all the same issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just we don't have the cost of the welding. We have the
Correct.
materials, we have an approximate guess of installation. But that guess of installation was not including the welding?
No, that it is, when
It
it's the
is,
installation. yes,
okay.
that is.
So it still says, so installation is expected to be approximately the same cost, $6,000 to $7,000. So we're still at around the $15,000 to $20,000 mark just to deal with the safety
Correct.
issues.
Correct. Yeah,
And
the other,
that's-
the other safety costs we're handling in-house, so that's a staff item.
Yeah. And so I guess what I'm trying to understand, we need to make a motion this evening about how to proceed based on the information that we've been provided. This same information was provided to the previous council, and they chose not to act at that time.
No, they
Yeah.
chose to act with rocks.
They chose to act with rocks.
So they put the rocks in front of the curb stops instead of ordering the wood.
Right, but didn't that
So-
already, wasn't that already determined to be not acceptable, and that has to be?
After their
After their
decision.
results.
After
So
the
they
decision, yeah.
thought they would put the rocks out and that would stop the cars from driving through the curbs because they're rotten.
Mhm.
And
To be
then
fair,
when the
no cars have driven
inspection,
off Since we put the rocks there.
since the
I
inspection.
never hadn't driven off before the rocks went in.
My faulty logic is my own.
But since the rocks were there, the engineer said, no, that is not appropriate.
Okay,
So what would be involved in getting public consultation on, making the choice of either proceeding immediately and then raising funds somehow versus closing the wharf until we've raised the funds? And
I mean, personally, I wasn't thinking that was the public consultation. I was thinking that the public consultation that we haven't had enough of, or hasn't been managed in a way that generates a clear and distinct path forward, is the overall, this is what's going to happen with the wharf in the future. I don't see a public consultation as being necessary to make a decision about the safety determination of the wharf. But I feel like I'm understanding that we either make the decision to spend the $15,000 to $20,000, or we make the decision to close the wharf. That's what I feel like I'm hearing.
that seems to be today's decision.
Yeah, and I'm feeling, again, this is me personally, and can't speak for any other counselor here, but I feel like if we know the safety risks and we know approximately what it's going to cost, I'm of the opinion, or I would support a motion or a draft recommendation, whatever, that we find the $15,000 to $20,000 from our operation reserves to deal with the safety issues and move that forward. But concurrently, while that's happening, we need to actively start to build the public consultation process to make the bigger decision. Because picking away at it isn't succeeding in solving the problem or solving the issue. So it is a big decision that affects a lot of people in many different ways. And it's prime in my mind to being a decision that requires as much public consultation as possible for the big decision. The decision about safety is a dollar and cents one. We take $15,000 or $20,000 out of the reserve and we pay for the safety concerns, or we don't.
And we do it now or we do it later, but at some point it still has to be done, still has to be dealt with.
So we've
So,
had two consultations. We had the public meeting where the three alternatives, reconstruction, rehabilitation, and demolition were put out. And we had good attendance at that meeting, but I agree, people were overwhelmed. The attendance was great at the meeting, but people were overwhelmed with the decision. The survey went out. We only had 63 people respond for the town, 38 for the county. Interest wasn't high, but the survey was well publicized. But as a result of that, even after the information being presented on the alternatives, we had people come back and say, well, I don't know what the options are, when they were very clearly presented. So there is, I'm not saying there shouldn't be more public consultation, but I could say that every effort was made to present the numbers. The engineers are brought in, there was good attendance at the meeting. But more people have weighed in from outside the town than inside the town with compelling arguments. And the main reason given in the survey for maintaining was heritage value. So I'm just putting that out there, not saying there doesn't need to be further consultation. But that's the.
the survey itself had a lot of criticism, because that was brought up to me, that was brought up during the campaign as well. That people felt that the survey questions were not neutral enough, and they kind of led you to have to answer in a certain way, even if you didn't actually support that. So that's a communications challenge, but that could be addressed again with public consultation. That could be addressed with how that information is put out there.
So I'll just say that Ken is leaving. Do you
Yeah.
have any more questions for Ken?
No, no, I thought you meant.
He's had enough of this conversation and he's gone.
Now,
I promised him.
Nice hairdo, Ken.
I promised him he could make his meeting and I wouldn't keep him, so.
I don't have any more
Ken.
questions.
he knows where I am.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not windy out there.
That is a preface to a further statement of needing to make a decision, so.
So do we,
Well,
is it appropriate at this point to make a motion? And then what? We've been discussing it as we've gone along, so.
I wonder if we need to divide it into sort of two things. The first thing is what do we want to do about the safety issue? And then the second is how do we want to handle getting the input and data that we need to make the bigger decision? And how can we pull resources in, because if Marie and Sandy have exhausted all the grant applications, then we need to start thinking about other approaches, and not to say you can't apply again another year, but you know, I think it's a substantial amount of money and we need to provide support to them in trying to do that. I guess the other thing that comes to my mind is, having read the report about the rising sea levels, the wharf is actually a really important part of that picture. So what the ultimate decision about that will then affect, about the wharf will affect the decision that we make about how to protect the town and, all of the businesses here in the future.
It has a knock-on effect. A very large knock-on effect in many ways. In many ways.
So if we were to first consider the safety issue, I don't know. I think
I'm prepared to make a motion that would allow us to at least address that particular safety issue. We could decide yay or nay whether we want to deal with that particular issue. And then we still have to figure out how we address dealing with the bigger picture issue over the longer term.
so. I don't know, Heather, do you have any thoughts you want to share on it?
I mean, I think if we're talking sort of liability and all that, I think that at the very least, we should be considering the safety issues. I'm all for sort of exploring other options for a public consultation, whether that's, survey, in person, all that sort of thing, but I do think we should make a decision on safety today.
Lynn?
Yeah, safety first.
Okay, Anne Marie?
Yeah, safety first.
Okay, can I have a motion then, please?
Okay. Um. So, this is gonna be interesting, just because we haven't typically drafted a motion in real time while we've been so far.
Yes.
So,
So so I'm gonna suggest something off the
okay.
cuff that council will recommend to council
Mhm.
to move forward with the wooden curb stops for the wharf. In the amount of to a maximum of $20,000, including HST. Out of the operating budget of 24-25. For the safety issues as noted in the inspection, or the, not inspection report, in the engineer's report, 2025.
Can we add to the motion a temporary closure of the wharf?
I would
support
Or can we, no, that's okay, but do we put that as a separate motion?
so.
Well,
Until
Until
it's
it's fixed,
or just
until it's fixed.
order the parts. So that would be a separate motion. So the one more motion, yeah, so if you want to make that motion after this motion, then that would be.
So do we need to put a timing in for when we would start the repairs?
No, because once we have the motion, then staff have the authority
Triggers it,
to
yeah.
start the order of the logs
As the
and get,
next step. Okay, good.
Would they close it while they were doing the repairs? Or
Yes. just while they're working on the wharf, they wouldn't probably close the whole thing, just where they're.
just the
working.
area they're working on. The motion, the draft motion that you just made, I would be prepared to move that motion. As you said it. Which I think Kim took down.
Read it in?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
Okay, it's to recommend to council to move forward with the wooden curb stops for the wharf to a maximum of 20,000, including HST, out of the operating budget 2023-24 for the safety issues as noted in the inspection report in the engineering report of, and was it 2025?
It should be, both of them should be 24-25.
Yeah,
Okay,
The
so-
engineer report and the.
24-25 budget, yeah. And with those changes, I'd move that.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Are you ready for the question? All in favor? All counter?
I decline.
Okay.
I don't think you can decline.
No, I mean, no.
Okay.
Okay, so if it's not unanimous, then,
Nope, it's fine.
Doesn't have to be
Yep.
unanimous.
all right. So the motion is carried.
Mhm. So
Um,
now, if Lynn would like to make a motion,
Okay, I move that, I move to council that we vote to temporarily close the wharf. With physical barriers until such time as the repairs are complete.
in a sense, oh, sorry, I'm doing your job.
That's okay. All right, is everyone ready for the question?
Ask for a second.
Oh, sorry.
That was what I was trying to do.
Thank you, sorry.
Sorry, can I just one more question?
Yeah.
Do we have sort of a timeline of when, like, how long we think that the repairs?
So the
Okay.
last time we looked at it, there was quite a wait on getting the logs,
Mhm.
so it was like. And Ken would have been able to answer this,
Yeah.
but I can't really remember, but I think it was like 6 to 8 weeks to get the logs. I don't know, because they're
They're big.
a larger log in a certain
they're very-
At
kind.
different times of year, it's faster and slower, so.
Right, so
It might be
yeah.
different now than it was then.
yeah, so I'm not sure.
So you'd probably be looking at least a 2 to 3 month.
Possible, but we don't
Possible,
know.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
and we should have a seconder just to have a
Yeah,
discussion.
because we
Sorry,
can't discuss
Because,
it.
yeah, and just because you second the motion doesn't mean you agree with the motion.
Okay, can I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
All right, do we want to discuss more then?
I would just say that the majority of the wood is not of an issue. The conditions have existed as they have for the whole time.
since that information was brought to the town. And the risk was made aware by, or to council, because they basically did what they did. Chose to put rocks out. The engineer came back and said, no, rocks, not good. So that risk has already existed this whole time. There hasn't ever been a single incident of a car going off of the wharf. We looked back in records as far as we can go and found none of them. But my point is simply that I don't actually believe that there's, for the amount of angst and discomfort that it would cause the community to have it closed suddenly, I don't actually think there's enough benefit to doing that. There's not enough of, to me, there's just not enough of a benefit to closing it at this time.
Would it be closed to all use or to cars or?
Well, if it's not safe to car, it would be not safe to cars. People could still walk on there, but it's the winter.
But it's
time.
only not safe to cars in very particular locations, some of which are areas where cars can't even go. Because some of the rotten wheel well wood is actually behind the barrier
Yeah,
where,
there's
near
still-
where the mural
yeah.
is.
But that's just like the last third. There's
Yeah,
still quite a bit.
But I
on
just,
the-
my point is that it's some of it already is not accessible, and so it's not the whole area that's a problem, it's just.
Sorry, Ken would probably also be another person that could answer this, but. When we have sort of our, the winter sort of closures, is there anything that, like, does that impact the wharf at all? Like, are people not allowed to park on there when we have sort of a storm?
No.
Okay.
We usually don't close the door.
But I just meant sort of
Like if there was a
parking for
high
like snow
tide.
removal and
No.
that sort of thing.
Because we're not allowed to put snow on the wharf. We're not allowed to pile snow on the wharf. In the winter.
It can't melt into the water.
So there's no like clearing of the wharf.
Winter maintenance, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, no.
No. But the haul up does still operate in the winter months. And so boats do still come to the wharf. So how would closing it down affect them? Because they wouldn't be able to offload their equipment.
So I'm not sure if they use it
yeah,
in the winter time.
I'm not expecting you to have an answer to that question.
So are these questions we need to take note of to bring to the next meeting? The town council meeting? I
Yeah,
don't know.
Well-
It feels like to make this motion, we may not have all of the details we need.
I would at least like to know from the haul up whether or not it would impact them. That would definitely, I think, be a factor. Even in addition to the fact that I still don't support it for the reasons that I stated, but I think that that would be a really important contributing piece of information, is that if they have boats coming in at all, you know, when the weather's not that bad, how do those boats offload their gear, which usually then goes onto trucks and leaves, if they can't actually take a truck out to the wharf?
Then did you wanna, it's your motion, so. Your thoughts?
Do we vote on it, just vote it down, or do we want an addendum?
So you can't amend it,
Amend it.
you can't table it, so you can defer it to next council, or you can vote on it and see where that goes.
Henry, do you, oh, sorry.
Sorry. And I'll err on the side of safety. So that's all I'll say about it.
Right, so do we want to defer this then to gather some of this information and have a further discussion at the town council meeting?
And have it on the agenda to deal with.
Yeah. Do we need a motion for that?
No, because you're just deferring the motion that's on the table.
Yeah, I get that.
And you have to state
Motion
the
for the
date, so the deferred motion would be until December.
18.
Yeah. So we'll defer the motion until December 18th until we can gather more information. Now, as for the larger question about how is, you know, this council gonna address the need to make some big decisions about the wharf for long term. Do we want to continue to discuss this now? Do we feel?
And can we set, like, can we keep looking to Sandy and to you, and I'm not sure who to address it to. Can we, what is our ability to have like an information session for ourselves to be able to have a conversation about some of this? Because I feel like there's probably more information that maybe at least 4 out of the 5 of us don't necessarily have that would be helpful to be done in an information session where we could get the benefit of Emery having been involved for
For
the
back
last.
to Lauren, the engineering.
Yeah, exactly, because some of the discussion, I think, is hard to have if we don't have all of the facts and kind of and be able to question some of the facts, like say, can you explain this to us or tell me why this is, why it's being written this way or why it's being dealt with this way, so that we can understand better what the next steps might be for that broader consultation.
Yeah, so I can set up a meeting for council to gather more information. You cannot make a decision, it's just
No,
for
yeah,
information only.
Information only.
Yeah.
Do we need to make a motion to do that, or is that just,
Direct
okay,
staff. You
perfect?
just direct
I
staff
think that
in the
makes a
minutes
lot of
to.
sense.
Yeah, I think that would be the first step.
And would that meeting be open to the public?
No.
No, okay. All right, so, have we dealt with this topic adequately to move on then today? All right,
I feel like, yeah.
great, good discussion. It's not an easy.
No, not at all.
There are no easy answers to it. All right, so, we'll now move on to new business. So the first topic there is the strategic plan. And our objective today is not to review the plan, but to plan a date for when we would review it and whether we're going to do an in-depth review or do an update of the plan, whatever we choose.
So in past years with the former council, what was done was on the preliminary review. Sandy and I would sit down and review everything that had changed in our environment.
Mhm.
So that was the first part of the plan, not the objectives part. So we do a first stab and highlight any changes and bring that to council. What you do with the plan after, where you go with it or how it looks or everything. So the idea would be, what we could do is update it for what happened last year, to bring it completely up to date in terms of what was achieved, what was finished. It has nothing to do with future because that this council determines. But we could do a preliminary update, just an update, and we would see what the changes, additions were, the update of the objectives, because it's a whole other document. And then you could decide from there, but it's really up to council to decide what process you want to adopt.
So it could be, you decide you wanna do the vision over again, you wanna do the mission over again, you wanna do the whole, like, public input
I
and
want you not to
surveys.
close my business in this, which you've done. They've noted that the business that I'm still working in has closed, but it hasn't.
Why we call it updating the plan.
Exactly.
So it seems to me like a first step of, because you guys are most familiar with it,
Yeah.
of updating it and starting the review there. And then I would think that doing that would tell us whether it's just minor tweaks or wanting to go to something bigger. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep, so we need a
it's
date.
whichever process, yeah,
Yep.
but you need a date, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
A date for you guys to update or a date for
Well,
us
we
to
would
meet
get
about?
that
We'll do the
preliminary-
update and
we
then we
do
need
the
to meet
update.
as a group.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, sorry.
And we'll have the update done by the time when you give us the date.
Reverse
I say
engineering.
we, broadly.
Yes, reverse engineering, I like that.
so do we want to pick a specific date
Yes,
today?
yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty.
I'm imagining that after Christmas.
I was gonna say, I
might be a good
think we have
idea.
to be in December or in January at this point. Cause we've only got,
And this should be a separate meeting or what?
It will have to be a separate meeting.
Okay,
yeah, we don't have many days left of this month.
no,
Could we sort of tack it on just like before either council or committee of the whole meeting?
So then you're
not an
making your
extra day.
meetings longer, right?
That's fine. Or
How
For
long,
you, it's-
how long,
yeah.
what time are we looking at?
It's probably a good 2 hour conversation, right?
Could be broken up into.
Well, yes, it can be
Yeah.
broken up, like you don't have to do everything at once, so you could do it in chunks, so. I think an hour, because half an hour you don't get too far.
No,
Yeah.
All right.
So if we did an hour on
On the
the
8th.
eighth and an hour on the
22nd.
22nd to review the plan.
Yeah.
So we.
No, we haven't made a motion to change those dates to the January one, so I'm
Oh.
assuming that those are good for everybody before you get there, right?
Yeah, they're a little out of order.
Yeah.
So we would start those days, assuming we agree to move them to those days, we would start at 5 PM instead of 6 PM, and is that
But can you get here? Yes.
No, I can't.
okay?
I need to check my staff meeting times, so they may change because of the 1st of January holiday.
Well,
They're normally the 1st and the 3rd.
I am willing to give you a Saturday. As an option.
I think you should.
It's something that
A
needs to
little
be
less
done.
115 or 120.
I mean, the other option is we tack them on at the other end, then after the meeting. Maybe we can do some.
It's a long day.
That's a long day.
Yeah.
For staff.
For staff, yeah.
Yeah.
We could tack it on to another meeting that is going on as well. It doesn't have to be committee of the whole or council.
Yeah.
It could be medic, it could be,
Excuse me.
what other ones do we have at night?
Medic
And PHAC. PHACs are on Mondays, right? So it doesn't have to be like that, right? We could finish PHAC and then move into.
When's the PHAC meeting in January? Is it the 13th or the 6th?
Because PHAC is at 4. So the December meeting is on the 9th, so that would mean the January meeting should be
On the
on
6th.
this.
It's
on
the
my
first Monday.
birthday. Jeez, you guys.
It's the first Monday of the month.
That's how we celebrate everything.
Sorry, the first which? It's always the first Monday of the month. for PHAC. And medic is the second Tuesday.
I have a quite open schedule, so you guys,
I'm
Or
expecting
Saturday.
cake.
Or Saturday.
or Saturday.
I'm available whenever.
Yeah, me too.
I think putting it with the PHAC, because PHAC's an hour. And so that would, we could do it after PHAC.
I can't remember who's on PHAC.
I am, and I
I
think
am.
Lynn is.
So, cause that one's at 4, so it could be like a 5 to 7. That's a Monday. Do Mondays work for you, Heather? The 6th of January, yeah.
Come on, you want to spend my birthday with me.
I guess there'll be cake.
There'll be cake.
I think I can do that. I could also do a Saturday, which I know is probably not. If it was like in that, I think around nap.
When is
Your nap time?
I wish. In
Usually
the
around
afternoon or morning?
11
Yeah.
o'clock to like 1 o'clock. I don't know if that, just putting out a couple options.
Yeah,
11 to 1,
option is
that
good.
works.
That would maybe free up your birthday.
Well, I'd actually prefer to, personally would prefer to stay on the Monday with PHAC, but that's just me. If it's only me, then you guys pick the date and I'll be there.
So. what works for you?
Anything?
Yeah, it's not us
Much
two,
help.
so, yeah, it's almost like the three of you need to come up with something and tell us what'll work.
I'm good up for the 6th.
I can do the 6th.
Okay, let's just do, so we'll do both hours or 1 hour that day.
I think we could do 2 hours that day.
I vote for 1. Because we'll have PHAC also.
You'll
you
have
have
the
to know when
document ahead
I
of
know.
time,
Yeah,
like you'll have the document ahead of time so that you can have a productive hour, you know.
and we can do some.
Like, it's
stuff
just
to
the
make-
starting it, right? The biggest thing is starting it. It's
Yeah,
not such a bad thing once you get started, okay?
Yeah, I tend to agree.
okay, so the 6th, so we will
Bring
hold,
food.
2 hours on the 6th after the PHAC meeting.
So that's 11 to 2, is that what we're doing?
No,
Wow.
no, that's 5 to 7.
5, 7.
5 to 7.
Yeah, because, yeah, it's 4 to
Oh,
5.
gotcha, okay.
Okay,
And if there is no PHAC, then we won't have to worry about the 4 to 5, but just come 5 to 7.
Yeah.
Because we probably will not have any applications the January 6th because
Right.
of the break in between and the.
So when would you know sort of whether or not it was like that? Or we could bump it?
Hopefully, yeah, we wouldn't know until we came back from break. So January 2nd is our first day back.
So the week before, or no, well, it's like 4 days before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that,
Sounds good.
all right.
Yep.
Great, so the next topic is reappointments. Do we have to motion and second that?
Every one of them,
Every one of them?
all
So
separate.
We'll do it the same way we did last time. Where, we'll start with Heather and then,
yes, wait, sorry, let me just pull in here. Does anybody know what page it's on?
Yeah,
it's,
I need page.
It was on page.
43. If you hit the little house tab, it takes you back to the agenda, and if you hit the tab on the agenda, it will take you right to the
Okay.
tab of
I
the.
was, I knew that the tab, I didn't know how to get back up.
Yeah.
Hang on, I still go back to my agenda.
right, so. Jeez.
Okay, okay,
The little house,
it's the. It's on page 43.
So if you hit your
This.
little house up here, that takes you back to your agenda.
yeah, I got mine.
So now.
And now if you are on your agenda and you hit the tab, click on
Tab
that.
5?
Yeah, it will take you right to your
Got it,
document.
yeah, got it. I jumped,
That's only. when-
I just go by tabs.
All right, so we'll start with bylaw enforcement officer.
All right, so I move that council appoint Dale Roberts as the Valley Waste Resource Management Bylaw Enforcement Officer for the term ending December 31st, 2025.
Can I have a seconder, please?
Second.
And are you ready for the question? All in favor? Unanimous?
I move that council appoint Ashley Gervais and Zachary Crummell as the animal control officer for the term ending December 31st, 2025.
Second.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
I
Unanimous?
I move that council appoint Hank Sawchuk as Town of Annapolis Royals Fire Inspector for the term ending December 31st, 2025.
I second.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously carried.
I move that council appoint Mark Jamerson as the Town of Annapolis Royals Building Inspector for the term ending December 31st, 2025.
I'll second that.
Is it Jamerson or Jameson?
Jameson.
Jameson, and we
Jameson.
need to correct the name on that.
Yep.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous carried.
All right, I move that council appoint Danny Young as the Occupational Health and Safety Representative for the term ending December 31st, 2025.
In addition, Donna Neat as well.
So it should be Danny Young and Donna Neat.
Sorry.
Is it not on there?
No, it's not.
Oh,
on.
it's- Sorry.
Okay, sorry, and Donna Neat?
Yes.
Okay, and Donna Neat, sorry, I'll just do it all over again. So I move the council appoint Danny Young and Donna Neat as the Occupational Health and Safety Representative for the term ending December 31st, 2025.
I'll second.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimously carried.
I move that council appoint Brian Reed as the overall director responsible charge for the water and wastewater system as per the Environment Act until December 31st, 2025.
I'll second that.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye and
Unanimously
amen.
carried.
We have one.
I move that council appoint Chris Millier as the Town of Annapolis Royal Planner for the term ending December 31st, 2025.
I'll second that.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously carried.
I move that council appoint Christine Eagle as the Town Crier for Annapolis Royal for the term ending December 31st, 2025.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously carried.
I move that council appoint Anna Kate Newman, Leslie Hodder, and Kendall Birch Skinless, thank you. To the committee, the pool committee for a term of 1 year until December 31st, 2025.
I'll second.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously carried.
I move that council appoints Stephen Hobble and Mike Bernard to the Environment Advisory Committee for a term of 2 years ending on December 31st, 2026.
I'll second that.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously carried.
I move that council appoints Daniela Sigia, Bishop, Ann Crossman and Spencer Reynolds to the Marketing and Economic Development Committee for the term of 1 year for the term ending December 31st, 2025.
I second that.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously carried.
I move that council appoints Ann Crossman, Rod Whale, and Mike Bernard to the Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee for a term of 2 years ending on December 31st, 2026.
I will second that.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously carried.
I move that council appoints Chief Administrative Officer Sandy Millett Campbell to the Lawrence Community Development Cooperative Board for a term of 2 years ending October 2027.
I think I should
I'll
say
second
Lawrence.
that. Is that Lawrencetown?
Yeah.
Community, It's Lawrencetown. I'll second that.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Can't do the audit
Yeah,
advisory.
need a member, it says. Okay. So we skip that and move on to the next one. Okay.
Is that a member at large or a member of council?
No, member at large.
Member
These
at
are all
large.
a
Okay.
member at large.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're on to Board of Police Commissioners.
That council appoint Roy Stagg and Paul Kellogg to the Board of Police Commissioners for a term of 3 years ending December
Sorry.
31st.
Can you add Michael Tompkins, please?
Oh, yes. The council appoint Ray Stagg, Paul Kellogg, and Michael Tompkins to the Board of Police Commissioners for a term of 3 years ending December 31st, 2027.
I'll second that.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously carried.
I move that council appoint Ken Knox as Civic Addressing Coordinator for the town of Annapolis Royal for the term ending December 31st, 2025.
I second that.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously carried.
I move that council appoint Chief Mark Kane as the Traffic Authority for the town of Annapolis Royal for the term ending December 31st, 2025.
I second that.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
And
Unanimously carried.
I move that council appoint Ken Knox as the Development Officer for the town of Annapolis Royal for the term ending December 31st, 2025.
I'll second.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously carried.
Can I ask one question about this? It's not gonna change anything. I just am curious as to, most of them were 2025, but then some were 26 and some were 27. How did the other ones end up with different times?
It all depends on the policy.
On policy, okay, thank you.
So for example, PHAC has alternating, so there's consistency. So 2 members would be appointed this year for a 2-year term. And then next year,
There'll
one
be
of the
another
other
2.
2 will rotate off. Yeah. And the police is a bylaw.
The police board is the bylaw.
Yeah, so it has the terms in there.
Okay, thank you.
Ready to move on? Our next topic is the Annapolis West Education Center student request to conduct a mock council meeting.
So the high school has reached out to Mayor Boyer and asked if they can do something with the town. I met with them a couple weeks ago. They were looking to do something with junior high students and high school students. I suggested that maybe if council is in agreement, we could do a mock council meeting. Have half the students would be staff and half the students would be council members, kind of walk through how a council meeting works. They thought that would be a great idea for the grade 12 students, but it isn't something that I have time to dedicate to work on. So looking to see if council wants to work on putting something together, I will definitely help. And then it would have to be done during school time for the students to come. And then I think Amory is going to do something with the lower levels. a tour of the
Oh,
building and.
Yes, they asked for a tour of the building.
And meet the town crier, what roles the town
Yeah.
crier would have had earlier as the town crier's roles now and. For the younger kids, so this is an item from our strategic plan, is to work more with the school. So it aligns with our strat plan, but it will take some time to,
When were they planning to start working on it?
I told them that it wouldn't happen until January, because December is already busy.
Have a few restrictions with work during the day, it makes it a little bit difficult to volunteer.
But it doesn't mean that it's not something that couldn't happen in the evening, even with the students.
Nope, yeah.
I don't think the students can come in the evening.
You don't think they could?
No, I think that's what she wanted it during the daytime, so that they would walk down
Mm.
and then, because busing. Getting students back and forth is harder in rural communities.
Yeah, true.
Do they want it done here or could it be elsewhere?
We didn't get into the details like that, because we could maybe do it at the high school.
Yeah, that's something, and actually that could be nice, because they're coming here for the other thing, and they've been to the police department. So that could be nice, taking it into their environment.
It'll have more room for people
Yeah.
to observe too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think this is really important to do. I'm a little concerned about the number of things I'm volunteering for, but if nobody else can do it, I will help, do what I can.
I can certainly participate. I don't have much organizational capacity right now. But I would certainly make the time to participate, and I can offer some support if somebody's gonna step up and help, but I just can't take it on myself.
Anyway, I can help. Yeah, to do whatever council wants to do.
So you need a lead to interact with the school and organize and drive it then? I will take that role.
And I'll help civil, whatever you want me to do.
Yeah. I'll help too, I just couldn't. commit to
I'm
leading
happy to
it.
participate in an evening one.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
Maybe I
and
can
also
use you
help out.
as a reference to Heather. I'm sure you have plenty of experience in this kind of thing. All
Well,
right,
we ship them to Bridgetown and do it there.
yeah, there you go.
You're right, we could get creative.
We could have a joint,
Have a joint
a
session.
joint meeting, yeah,
Yeah.
the students there.
Take it on the road.
Mhm. Okay, we don't need a motion for that. Okay. So the next topic is the code of conduct. And then, so both, the previous code of conduct and the new one have been provided to us for review. We need to have policy in place by the 19th of December, so. If there are recommendations for changes to the new version that are earth shaking, we would need to take them into account. Otherwise, I think we should accept that this has been through several rounds. There's precedent. Sandy and her team worked really hard on it. And in that case, we can recommend to council to adopt the new policy on the 18th, which will be one day early from the deadline. Anybody comments or concerns?
I have some comments, but it's nothing's earth shattering. There's just a few odd things here and there that I wanted to ask about. So one question I had was why there was a difference between the order that we did things in our version versus the recommended version that they provided. So like in some places, things are in a different order in our version than they are in the one that
The province did.
the province.
No idea why the province did it in their order and why we did it in our.
Okay, so there's no, that was kind of that.
And I will also say that this is the exact code that the municipality of the county of Annapolis is using. So it's the same. So we're all
Yeah.
doing the same code.
The only other question I had was on number 15. In the recommended code, they actually have one more item in that section. And it's the first item on their list, which is members of council will adhere to the code of conduct. And we don't have that in ours.
And I think that's repetitive as it is the code, so. Once you sign off on it, you're saying that you're going to adhere to it, so I didn't, that's why I left it out.
Okay.
I can put it back in, it's just,
No, that's okay. Oh, 22-3. 22-3. Says a council member who is determined by council to have contravened the code must complete additional code of conduct training. Which isn't in the recommended one from the province, but my question was, so who would actually deliver such training and what would qualify? Since this isn't included in the recommended.
yeah,
things from the
so
province,
Yeah.
so how would we determine that?
it would just be, we would hire someone to give the training.
But what training, does it actually exist?
Depends
Because-
on what the code reflection is, so if. Depending on what the violation is, would be determined by what training would be given to the counselor. So if. For example, if. A counselor disclosed in-camera information, then it would be on. Objectivity, things.
But that's already covered in number 2C.
Yeah, so, but the training would be depending on what the violation was.
Right, but
Right.
number 2C
Yeah.
in that section says requirement that council member attend training appropriate to address action of conduct that contravene the code. And then we have number 3, which is this complete additional code of conduct training, which is the same as that. I'm saying
No.
get rid of number 3.
No, so the code of contract training is the one that I gave you the dates for that everybody has to take
Mhm.
online. So that's the code of conduct training that has to be done. And if there's a violation, then you get more training. Or you have to do the training again on what. If you're out
I
of the
thought that's
code.
what was covered in the first part, in the 22.
That'll be released in January, the training, the online training.
Yeah, so I think I sent you the date.
yeah.
And it's for the Valley, I think it was January 18th or somewhere around there.
That's the in-person though.
No,
January
there's,
6th is Saturday.
yeah, the 20th. Code of conduct training is the 20th and it's online.
Online.
Yeah.
And then I only
And
have,
then there was an extra one that people can go to. There's like, and that one was a different date that there's out there, but there is one that's mandatory,
Okay, and
but that's
so
online. So
That's on the, and what's the deadline to complete that?
I don't know. They haven't, the province hasn't even released it yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just released.
But the 20th was booked, is it?
Yes, for the Valley. So the Valley
that's
towns and
the one in the Wolf
municipalities.
At the Oak, or Orchard Inn, isn't it?
Old Orchard.
Old Orchard Inn.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah,
So there's all different
Yeah.
sections, yeah.
yeah.
So sorry, just to clarify, January 20th is the in-person code of conduct training for the Valley,
Yes,
but an online one will be available after that.
yes. So they haven't released the dates and the time. So that one will just be like you will go to the link and you can do it whenever.
Okay.
So
It's
one
us.
subs for the other?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's different, from the email that was sent out to counselors, there would be different information and go over different things that would be in the online training. So it was just,
So we should be going to both.
Yeah,
If you
I got the
are
both
available.
and impression.
Yeah.
But- And then the only other question I just had about this was in relation to kind of the appendix sections, appendix B and even appendix C. The question I had was how are the recommended complaint and investigator process incorporated into this? So where does that get included for us and for the public to be aware of what the process is? Is there a page, will we have a page on the website that explains, what the recommended complaint and investigative process is? or-
well, that's outlined in 21. Right, complaint and investigation process.
Yeah, but it's not got it's this appendix C section that I'm talking about. It's quite a bit more than what we have in that 2021, and it's listed as appendix C. It's actually 2 pages long. So that's why, that was the only other question I had, was not so much does it need to go in here, but
Yeah.
but where
where will that be made available to people so that they would actually understand how to work this process? Because 21 doesn't provide enough information to do that.
Yeah, so that would be with the policy.
So it'd be,
So
this
when they-
part would be with the policy.
Well, our part of what they'll do, right?
Okay. Well, like this whole appendix C that spells out how people access it and what happens and,
Yes.
okay, thank you. That was it for me.
Any other comments or questions?
Oh, just that this was brought in for a very good reason. There are all
Mhm.
kinds of infractions right across the province.
Yeah.
Serious issues that go unchecked.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good reason to bring in penalties,
Yeah.
try to reinforce better behavior.
And we also have to appoint the investigator by the December 31st date. I have reached out to Peter Matart, as he is no longer a warden,
He'd be
Just
excellent.
to see if he would be our investigator.
There's, I don't know if you're aware, but there have been a number of investigative companies that have been posting job positions for just this job.
Yeah, the A-Mans has it out.
And it's, they're paying the contractors $125 an hour, which would give you a guesstimate that they'll charge municipalities $250 at least.
Yep, and it could break us.
Yeah, I've given feedback to people that I know who are involved in the process at the province that they shouldn't be offloading this to municipalities. The investigative process could have fit into the ombudsman's office seamlessly. All those people already exist. But I think you did an amazing job on this package.
Right. Any other questions or comments on that topic? So we need a motion.
I'll move. So, I would move to recommend to council approval of the code of conduct for elected officials of the town of Annapolis Royal, policy number 2024-13, dated December 2024.
Seconder,
I'll second that.
and I'll second. Everybody ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimously carried. Okay, so unless anybody wants to be here on January 1st, it's been suggested that we change the committee of the whole and council meetings for January to January 8th and 20.
You never know.
Staff also doesn't
With
need time to
party.
put out the.
I think we'll be at a levy that day, won't we?
The only question I had was then, does that just trigger the change permanently moving forward or just for January?
Just January's,
Perfect. That works for me.
All right,
and I need a motion,
sorry,
and then.
I'll also move.
you so move, okay,
I
seconder,
so move
please.
exactly what's here.
I'll second that.
All seconds, ready for the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously carried. All right, and our next topic is a meet and greet update.
No,
No, current grants.
Oh, sorry, checked the wrong thing, current grants update.
so I just wanted to kind of give you a broad stroke of the majority of the grants for 24-25. So we got a sustainable service grant that did the solar panels at the wastewater plant. It was almost $250,000. That has to be completed by March 2025. It is almost done. This is where we're using the money for the tower at the plant as well, so that the Wi-Fi will work the solar panels, so it can go in the grid and keep everything running. We got the RDG recreation grant for the playground, so that's a combination of equipment from the accessibility grant, so that was for $50K. We got a community works grant through the province for $12,750. That was for the wandering interpreters that happened at the end of this summer and will happen next summer. Also to hire a twinning coordinator to work with the Royan students that are coming over with their project. And while they're here to kind of guide them and come up with their project. We got a municipal innovation project grant. So that was to develop a regional plan for economic development Development to hire one staff member. So that grant was for $44,620, which is cost shared with the town of Annapolis Royal, town of Middleton, and the county of Annapolis, of which the town of Annapolis Royal only has to pay $2,231. We applied for the Enabling Accessibility Fund, and that is for the accessible playground equipment, flashing crosswalk signs downtown, for a grant of $81,473, which is 100% funding, no matching. We got the beautification grant, and that was for the extra sales at the O, lighting of the walkway at the O, benches, park lighting, new seasonal banners for Main Street for $10,400, which is a 50% grant. We received the FRIP, which is the Flood Risk Information Infrastructure Investment Program, for $20,988. And that was for, we've changed the scope to deal with the high level concept of the marsh restoration, which we're still waiting for confirmation about the scope change. Received a grant from Nova Scotia Justice on, for civil forfeiture grants for $25,000. We received Annapolis West Health Foundation for $2,000 that we combined with the HCR Community Fund to produce the video for the recruitment for medical professions for $7,500, both at 100% funding. We also applied for the Canada Summer Grants, which we received one student, which does our summer music at the O, and events for $2,080. We applied for a PCAP grant for a second water source of wells on this side of the river, which we were not successful for. We applied for another PCAP grant to do a wastewater line through the farmers market parking lot to help with the incidences that we're having at the Home Hardware lift station. We were not successful with that grant. We applied for the FCM Canada's Community Canopy. That was a 50-50. We've applied for the Community Climate Capacity
Oh, you
Grant.
did get the green streets.
Yeah. We applied for the Community Climate Capacity Grant with Clean Foundation, which we have an intern for 3 years to work on the Joint Climate Action Plan, which cost us no money for her salary for 3 years. We are applying for the Tremendous Tree Canada grant for $10K, which is due on Monday. We're applying for the grid, which we did the motion for last week on the shoreline restoration. And we are also applying for an intact grant in January for the shoreline restoration project. So that's the quick an update of all of the grants that have been written just this year.
One time, that's a lot of
That's a
work.
lot of work and it's impressive.
So it's a lot of work just to write the grants, but then when you're successful, that's a lot of work to the county department because I'll just the extra work on them as well. So just to kind of, usually if there's any project, we make sure we have funding before we go ahead with the project. It's always one of those things we look for a grant before we move forward. And most of the time we use the strat plan to follow to when we see a grant come in and look through the strat plan to see what direction. Yeah.
And there was one that we could apply for the wharf, which is why we did. It was
Yes.
the
And we
one
did.
opportunity,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was for historical, with a historical kind of tilt to it, like the reasons.
No, that one was like a, what was it, maximum
Economic development.
10 million or something?
Yeah, it was a big one, and we applied for 7 million.
Stuff like for
It was
7
like
Yeah.
everything, reconstruction.
Yeah.
of the road.
Because we use that word for so many things. We've
Yeah.
got recreation on there. We have culture on.
And we pulled all those levers in the grant. We had the
Okay,
Tai
yeah.
Chi group in, we had
Yeah.
everything
Oh,
in.
good, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask one question about the grant that was for the recruitment video? Maybe I just didn't hear it completely. Was that one shared across?
No, we had, so we had one
We
grant
just
from
did
the
it
foundation.
ourselves.
Yeah, and we didn't get enough money, so then we had to go to the foundation to get the other half.
So how
Or
come
20.
that video is not on the town's YouTube channel, then it's on something different entirely?
It's on the town's YouTube channel, right on the front page.
The. It's on a,
The other thing we talked about is
The
developing
medical
some
one.
kind of a website, but we need to get a grant for that.
it's not on the actual, it doesn't have, the YouTube channel does not have the town's logo on it, it's just a blue T and it's the only video on that channel. That's what I was wondering, because it misses out on all of the reach that the actual town's YouTube channel has, which is huge.
Yeah, right there on the front page.
So when it was first released, when it was on Facebook, it was on this other YouTube channel.
I would have to look into it, but it's right on the homepage of
Okay.
the website.
I'll send you the link. I'll send you the link I've got. Cause it's not on the town. The link I've got is not on the town's channel.
Is it because you're on
Right
your
there.
mobile phone?
No, that's on the, yes, okay, you see, but I want you to
It's the
look.
T. Yeah, there's a T there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look at the other one right beside it.
Yeah.
The one right beside it is the town's official YouTube channel.
Yeah.
If you click through that video to the T, it's on a YouTube channel all by itself. There's no other videos there. So it's
Yeah.
not actually getting any of the benefit of the town's YouTube channel.
Okay, well, that's something different then, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's there.
Yeah, no, I know it's there, but it's on two separate YouTube channels. So that's what I was wondering why that happened.
We've got 20 minutes left. Maybe we'll follow up on this, is that okay?
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah, I'll send you, yeah.
So can we move on to the meet and greet update now? Sorry, I just want to make sure we get out of here. At least approximately timely.
So the meet and greet, that was up to if you, and you know, how it went, if you wanted to have another one, what your thoughts or feelings. I thought it was a great turnout.
I thought it was really well attended.
Mhm.
It was great to hear from folks who perhaps didn't attend the meet and greet that we had prior to the election.
Yeah, and I think it'll provide a very nice way moving forward to get a temperature of how people are feeling, what's important to them in the town. I would strongly be in favor of doing them. I mean, I think we can help diffuse the work on staff. So that, you know, we can conduct these if everyone feels the same.
I'd just like to make the point that every time we meet in council is a meet and greet.
It's
People
true.
are very welcome to come every
Yeah.
2 weeks also.
Well, and maybe that's a message.
And when we are at events, they're welcome to attend those public events, so.
I think there's no opportunity for conversation when they come to these meetings. So I think that's where the difference was at the meet and greet, is that there was more people were able to converse.
I agree, but I think once we get into our committees, that our time is going to be quite tight. And time for staff here is quite tight. So I think we should continue them, but we need to think about how often we're going to do it.
Mhm.
And we could do as part of the strategic plan, because I know people wanted updates on big projects. So we can throw that all into, because communications was a challenge for the
Mhm.
previous
Yeah.
council. It was in there, we made various efforts, so, you
I
know,
like that idea, yeah.
we could throw that in there and figure out what is it we need to communicate and how often and,
How
yeah.
we
and-
communicate, not
exactly.
everybody
Yeah,
it goes to our
right.
website, not
Yeah.
everybody can kind of move around our website. Not everybody's on Facebook,
Yeah.
there's a lot of older people that don't use social media,
yeah, all those things.
and younger people.
So we'd like to continue them, but we need to define frequency and what will be involved, and is that an accurate?
Yeah, and we need to make it really accessible for
Yeah.
our older population too.
All right, so,
TBD.
TBD.
Yeah.
So before we move on from that, talking about communication, so as everybody is aware, the Canada Post is on strike and your water bills are going out this month. So staff are asking that if you want to phone in and leave an email address, your water bill can be emailed to you. Or you can come in and they will print it off and give it to you. Or make arrangements if you phone the frontline staff to make arrangements on how you will get your water bill.
And will a notice go out like on Facebook and maybe the town crier email list?
Yeah, but a lot of people don't get that as well. So we're bringing it up as this,
So we
hoping
can
to
inform
just
people.
kind of,
Yeah.
get.
Will the
information
doors
out
be open beyond 3:30 for people?
3
Did you-
o'clock? No.
Just 3 o'clock, so, okay. So no changes in the open hours,
No, because our staff are only here from 10 to 3.
so they can phone.
And there's somebody that will answer the phone until 4:30,
Okay,
right? So yeah, so it will go out MailChimp and Facebook and stuff like that, but if anybody's
little bit
watching
helps, yeah.
and would like to set it up anytime. We're not printing the water bills until the 20th of December. Is that a Friday?
yes.
Yeah, so then they can, pick them up that day or the 23rd, or we can email them out in January, but they are still due to be paid the end of January. And if it's not paid, the interest will be added on
And so
In
it's January
February.
31st.
that the bills are due, yeah.
And it's very high rate of interest.
And so even if they come after town hall is reopened after the Christmas break, they'll still be in time to pick it up and be able to pay before anything kicks in.
And maybe Canada Post will have an agreement in January, but just kind of wanna
Just
put
in case.
options out there so that people know that their water bills will still be due January
Yeah, my
31st.
sister, the newspaper magnate, instead of Canada Post, she hired a bunch of kids. And they're thrilled to get the money, and they're delivering her papers.
Oh, wonderful.
That's how she's handled this week.
That's very creative. All right, are we ready to move on then?
Yeah.
Under correspondence, we have the Annapolis Community full final report. I guess everybody had a chance to read it. It's an impressive effort on behalf of the pool volunteers, but also the town to raise that amount of money in such a short time. Gives me hope for other projects in the town.
Right.
Anybody else want to comment on it or?
My only comment was, just something they might want to consider is, trying to quantify the in-kind amount.
Okay,
Yeah, it could help, it could be a big help. In our case, 40,000 leverage, 70,000. Like for, the Environment Committee did that based on Bottomley's work. That was, but we
Okay.
valued it and it had value. For a
so
grant.
we'll give that feedback then to. Anna Kate.
And they still have one big hurdle that they haven't yet met, which is a certified pool operator. I wondered if we know whether the county has their own certified pool operator, because they operate a couple of pools. And wondered if there was a shared services opportunity here.
So we did have a meeting on Tuesday, sorry. And so they were exploring, they've been in chats with some of the other with the county.
That'd be
and
great,
Some of the
it
other
just
areas.
Seems like. Wouldn't that be great if we could just share that service too?
Maybe they should talk to Lawrencetown. Lawrencetown seems to be able to do everything.
Don't give away my secrets.
I know you won't share.
I did think it was really important to highlight in the 2024 capital repair project, the number of sort of local vendors that they were able to access, with the exception of the one in Ontario, so just
Yeah.
how great they did. So,
Yeah.
Trying to keep things.
They should be
local as possible.
incredibly proud.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Really exceptional
Impressive.
what they've done.
Very impressive.
They're contributing to the
So
economy.